Hi there, thanks for checking out another video on my channel. This is part 2 of the Webb mower resurrection. In this video I'll be taking a look at the drive for the cutter and drive roller and seeing if I can sharpen the cutter and get this thing cutting grass. Okay, let's go.
I've had a bit of a look at this drive system, and apart from being a little bit grubby, I'll give it a clean with some petrol maybe. Everything seems okay. The belt hasn't got any cracks in it. They normally fail because they get cracks in them. It's been sitting still for a while and there's a few little lumps and bumps in it, but nothing special. I think that's just a joint in the belt there, I'm not sure. But everything looks okay. This bearing feels okay, that bearing feels okay. This bearing I'll probably just grease and then just see how it goes. But apart from that, that spring is still pretty good. The spring on this mechanism here is still pretty good, so yeah, I don't know what else I can do apart from give it a bit of a clean, grease that bearing, put the cover back on and see how we go. This is a belt drive system. This is the shaft that comes out of your engine through a horizontal shaft, and that rotates, and this lever up here, when you squeeze it like this and push the button in and let go of the handle, this spring pulls this tensioner pulley down, takes up the play on this V-belt, so it is now driving the cutting blades. And when you want the actual machine to drive forward, you push this knob here in, down here there's a pin, there's a hole in this pulley and a pin in this plate here, so you might hear it click as it drops in, and then now you're driving your driving drum. So now it's not only cutting, it's moving forward. So when you want it to stop, you pull that up. So now it's only turning your cutting blades. And when you squeeze this handle in, and that pin pushes in because of the spring tension on this little spring here. Now your engine's turning and it's driving nothing. The only thing it's doing is it's spinning on this pulley, so it might polish this pulley up a little bit. That's something you can fix with a sandblaster if it ever starts to slip. I'm just going to blow this out a little bit. One good thing with these belt drive systems is this V-belt is just a standard V-belt. You can get this from any kind of auto parts store. An A36 belt, and what that means is A is the width there, because you've got A, B, C and D series belts, I think. So the A series belts are 1/2 inch, and I think they're 3/8 of an inch deep, and the 36 is 36 inches on the inside. If you were to cut that and measure on the inside, it would be 36 inches in circumference. So that's good, because you can get these belts in any kind of auto parts place, Motormate, Super Cheap, Burson's, anywhere like that sells V-belts, or a lot of agricultural places would have that belt too, and there's nothing special about that belt. That's quite an easy belt to get. There's a ball bearing in this housing here that is oiled by putting oil down through there, and similarly for the actual cutter, there is one in there. So you put oil in through there. On this side, there's one there as well. One good thing is that oil seal there, that's not leaking, so that's good. That would be a bit of a drama if that leaked. The reason these blades are curved is so that as they pass the cutter blade underneath, they're doing more of a shearing action, kind of like that sort of an action. In fact, I can show you that if I'm very careful. I hold this blade, this ruler here, and then you can see that sort of, that's passing that at a slight angle like that. So it's making like a shearing. See, it's kind of doing that. So that's what it's doing against the cutter blade down the bottom there. And the way you adjust this is you loosen this nut. So you loosen that off. And then you can see that this is moving up and down. I'll just hold that screwdriver there so you get a reference point. So that's moving that up and down, and you can see this cutter's moving up and down. So that's how you set the clearance gap between your cutter and your cutter blade underneath the mower. I'm going to tip the mower on its back now so we can have a look at the bottom blade knife. So we'll just tip it back like that. There's the bottom blade knife along there, and you can see then how that curved cutter bar has a shearing action against that. It's not touching it at the moment because I've adjusted it so that it doesn't, but that's how that has that shearing action along there, like a pair of scissors, like a pair of rotary scissors. To take this blade off, there are 6 slotted screws. Now they've been in there for a while, so I'm going to use this impact driver, and the way these work is inside here there's some hardened steel cam faces, and when you belt this with a hammer, it tries to, not only does it seat the slot closer, better into the screw, but it undoes it. So if you push down on that, I don't know if you can see that, but it's also trying to undo the screw. Yep, that one's come loose. A couple of them put up a bit more of a fight than I was expecting. In fact, one of my bits has taken one for the team. But what can you do? Luckily, I had a spare and I was able to get the job undone. So let's take these screws out now and see what we've got. I've left one of the middle ones in so that it pivots and doesn't just try and hang off the end and put too much tension on the screw to get it undone. So here we go. Don't look in too bad a condition, very fine thread. I don't know what that is, so I might just get a thread gauge and just check that just so that I know. So there's the cutter bar off. A little bit of surface rust there, nothing too serious. I'll give that a bit of a wire brush and we'll see how that looks once that wire brushing is done. Okay, that hasn't wire brushed up too bad. There's a little bit of rust, but nothing too serious. So I reckon I'll just give that a bit of a lick along that edge there, give it a little bit of a shine to that edge there, and then we'll put it back in, and then we'll adjust the cutter and see how we go. I've given the blade a bit of a clean up with a flap disc, and I've got a little bit of a shine along there. It's not too bad. There is a nick out just there. I'm not going to take that out, otherwise I'll end up taking too much of the blade off, and I really don't know a lot about these blades. So I'm going to put that back on now. That's got a little bit of an edge to it. I'm just going to clean along this face here now with a wire brush and a grinder, and we'll make sure that's nice and flat to screw the bottom blade back onto. I'm going to put these screws back in now. Some of the heads aren't too bad. That one's not too bad. What that mark there is, I think, is somebody has center punched the end just to spread that web a little bit, just so that it holds onto the side of the blade plate a little bit better. And I haven't checked what the thread is. It's quite a fine thread. And I'm going to put some thread locker on these, because even though thread locker stops them from coming out, it actually also makes them easier to take out, because you've got a thin film of chemical between the threads so they don't rust into place. So I'm going to fit this blade now, and I'll fast forward through fitting them all. So I'll just get the first one started and the second one so the blade doesn't pivot out the way and misalign the other holes. And one thing you have to be careful with, you have to make sure you get them all started and nipped up before you tighten any of them, because they're a slight countersunk screw, and they sort of locate. This one here looks like it's on it. Here we go. See, it's shifted that blade up. So I'll just loosen that one off, and now I'll put the rest in. So I'm just getting a little bit of a tap with that, just like a bit of a tighten them a little bit better, because that's quite a good high carbon piece, that one. High carbon screwdriver bit. Let's have a look. Here we go. In you go. Just letting them do that up a little bit. So now I'll set this gap here, that gap there. I'll just check on the internet what that gap there is supposed to be. I don't think it's supposed to quite brush it, but I think I'll have to have a look on the internet, and I'll set that gap. I think it's about the thickness of a piece of paper, but I'll let you know. And the way you set these is you get a piece of paper, and it's kind of just trying to catch that piece of paper, the thickness of a piece of paper. Now this reel's a little bit bent, a little bit old, but it's just trying to, you can just see where it's marking that paper there. No, you can't. Okay, try over here. It's just wanting to mark that paper there. So that's probably, I think, as good as I'm going to get it with this one, because there's a little bit of variation with these blades. I've given them a bit of a clean up with a flap disc. So now tomorrow, if it doesn't rain, we might give this a bit of a try out and see how we go. Once again, I've adjusted the height of the cutter in relation to the bottom cutter bar with these aluminium castings here, which have an off center, and when you rotate them they go up and down like I showed earlier. So what I will do now is I will tighten that nut there up. I'll have to hold this still while I tighten that, and then once it's tight I'll just double check that the setting is still good on the cutter blades. The way you set the actual cutting height on these mowers is with this piece here. You loosen that nut there and that nut there, and then you move this up and down, and then you tighten that up. So you've got to make sure that these are the same. So that's on number 4 there, and it's on about 3.5 there. So I'll fix that tomorrow morning before I try this out. And so obviously you tighten them once you've got it set right. But as long as they really should be the same, unless the chassis actually twisted, which I don't think on this one it is. So these wooden rollers are pretty neat. I haven't seen wooden rollers before, so we'll give that a shot tomorrow morning and see how we go. One last thing before I try it out tomorrow. This cover here, I'm not exactly sure what's under there, so I might just pop that off and have a bit of a look. It doesn't appear to have any gaskets or anything, so I don't think it's anything serious. I might just take it off and see if there's any crud underneath it. Okay, underneath that there is a fair bit of crud, and any air-cooled engine doesn't need crud, all that sort of stuff in its cooling fins. So I'll just get the compressed air and blow that out, and then that'll be the last thing I do tonight, and we'll give this thing a run in the morning and see how we go. Alright, the good news is it works. You can see where I've mowed there, and we live in a rural area and we don't really have anything I would call lawn. We get a lot of winter grass, and it has actually struggled with some of these longer ones here, but it's taken the head off the clover, most of it, and I have got a catcher full, which I'll give to the chooks, and I'm just hoping that it will work a bit better on my son's lawn, because he's got a proper lawn, and like I said, we don't really have much of a lawn. We got this winter grass. That's our dam. Our nearest neighbour's 400 metres, so what's that for you guys in America? A quarter of a mile away. That's our chickens. And just round to my wife's beautiful garden, which we've just finished putting sprinkler system in for. Yeah, this mower isn't really appropriate for our setting, but hopefully it'll work well for my son. Alright, thanks again for watching. Thanks again for checking out this video, and I've got it all running nicely, and like I said, it cuts grass. And alright, well, please check in later. Please like, subscribe, and click that notifications bell, and we'll see what I can come up with next. I think my next one is some handy workshop hints. Alright, thanks again.